want to begin with the very latest on that shooting in Monterey Park, California, and our Kris Van Cleave is on the scene. Kris?
Margaret, good morning. A lot of unanswered questions face investigators this morning. The work at the scene here continues. The FBI and local police still here. The suspect has not been identified and at last report was still on the loose. The motive, the why for all of this, that remains a mystery.
I got 3 immediates in here, and I got approximately 10 deceased.
This morning, a community's celebration of the Lunar New Year turns to tragedy. Investigators say the deadly shooting came as the event was wrapping up in Monterey Park outside Los Angeles. Authorities believe a lone gunman opened fire on a crowd, killing 10 and injuring at least 10 others, some critically.
When officers arrived on scene, they observed numerous individuals, patrons of the location, pouring out of the location, screaming. The officers made entry to the location and located additional victims.
The mass shooting took place inside a ballroom dance club a little before 10:30 Saturday night.
All I can tell you is that it was a firearm that was used.
Monterey Park is a community of nearly 62,000. Almost 2/3 of its population is Asian. The Lunar New Year celebration is a big attraction here. Witnesses said they initially thought the shots were fireworks.
I did hear some sounds going off and I was like, oh, fireworks? It's very surprising, shocking to hear that something like this went on in not only a small city, but my city.
According to some witnesses, the shooter appeared to be firing indiscriminately.
The Lunar New Year festivities here in Monterey Park attract about 100,000 people a day. It's a 2-day event. All of the plans for today have been canceled. We understand police are at a second location a few miles from here in a neighboring city. The sheriff's department says it may be related to the shooting here. We're still waiting for details on that, Margaret.
Kris Van Cleave, thank you. And we will come back to you later in the show if there is any new development. But right now we go to our chief national affairs and justice correspondent, Jeff Pegues. Jeff, we know both the president and vice president have been briefed on this. What are you hearing from your sources about this investigation?
Well, it's ongoing in terms of tracking down who this person is. The question is, what kind of weapon was involved here? Is it a hate crime? Some of the initial questions that law enforcement, whether it's local and federal, are asking right now.
So why are federal investigators involved in it at this point, and how do they determine things like motive?
Well, here's where I think law enforcement has an advantage. In this phase of an investigation, when you have a suspect still out there, having the help of the FBI, the ATF, for one, can trace the weapon, the origin of the weapon, also help with the crime scene, as can the FBI. But of course, the FBI can also talk to witnesses who are anywhere across the country.
At this point, all we're hearing is that it was a firearm. Why is that significant in terms of the type of weapon?
Well, it looks like, based on the amount of wounded and dead, that this was a high-powered sort of weapon. Whether it was semi-automatic or automatic, it could unleash several rounds a minute. And so investigators are going to look at that as they try to process the scene as it unfolded moment to moment.
When you hear that the shooter is still potentially on the loose here, what happens in a scenario like that?
We don't see, in terms of active shooter situations like this and mass shooting situations like this, you don't see a lot of suspects who do the act and then take off. In many cases, they will take their own life. And so this is an interesting case in that way, that investigators are still searching for the suspect. They haven't not at this time released a description of the suspect or what kind of vehicle this person could or may be riding in. And so there's still a lot of questions about the investigation going forward in terms of tracking that suspect down, which is so rare in situations like this.
Jeff Pegues, I'll let you get back to making calls. Thank you.